Friday, June 19th. Further on in James chapter 2, he says this: "The person who keeps all of the laws except one is as guilty as a person who has broken all of God's laws. For the same God who said, 'You must not commit adultery,' also said, 'You must not murder.' So if you murder someone but do not commit adultery, you have still broken the law." I don't know about you, but when I listened to that, I realised that it would be possible to think of God's law as just a list of do's and don'ts. And if I could list them all, would I ever be able to live them? Would I ever be able to cross every T and dot every I? I doubt it. But at the same time, the spirit of those words is this: know the book. Your relationship with Jesus needs to be deep enough that it changes who you are and reveals who God is in all that you are. But right now, in this moment, I also think of all those people at home who are homeschooling. I cannot begin to imagine what it would have been like in my house trying to teach my children. As pastors' kids, there were Sundays, I know, when no matter how profound and how deep and meaningful and transformative I thought my sermon was, when I looked in their faces, I knew they were thinking, "Mother's going on again." And I've wondered how people would receive the teaching of Jesus in that kind of school setting if it was given that way. And I came across this. Imagine the Sermon on the Mount as a school lesson. Then Jesus took his disciples up the mountain, and gathering them around him, he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the merciful, blessed are they who thirst for justice. Blessed are you when persecuted, blessed are you when you suffer. Be glad and rejoice, for your reward is great in heaven." Then Simon Peter said, "Do we have to write all this down?" And Andrew said, "Are we supposed to know this?" And James said, "Will we have a test on it?" And Philip said, "What if we don't know it?" And John said, "The other disciples didn't have to learn this." And Bartholomew said, "Do we have to turn this paper in?" And Matthew said, "When does the bell go?" And Judas said, "What does this have to do with real life?" Then one of the Pharisees present asked to see Jesus' lesson plans and asked him about his terminal objectives in the cognitive domain. And Jesus wept. I hope you don't treat Jesus' teaching like that. But there's a much deeper message to God's words. I want to read you a poem. It's a poem that Gerard Kelly, remember the Twittergies? Gerard Kelly wrote of Rob Lacey. Rob Lacey was a writer and a presenter and a performer who wrote drama, who wrote the Street Bible, and wanted to get God's message out in a way that everyday people could understand. And this was Gerard Kelly's tribute to him when Rob Lacey tragically died very young. I want to follow Rob's God, God the goal of my soul's education. Rob's God is approachable, articulate and artful, a glowing God of graceful inclination. Rob's God snowboards cloudscapes and paints daisies on his toes while watching Chaplin reruns on his iPod. He smiles at cats and children, jumps in puddles with his shoes on. He is a where's the fun in fundamentalism God. Rob's God doesn't shoot his wounded or blame the poor for failing at prosperity. He doesn't beat the broken with bruised reeds from their garden or tell the sick that healing's their responsibility. Rob's God is a poet, painting people as his poems, a sculptor shaping symphonies from stone, a maker of mosaics, a curator of collages woven from the wounds and wonders we have known. A furnace of forgiveness, Rob's God radiates reunion, pouring oil on every fight we've ever started. A living lover, loving laughter, lending light to the helpless and the harmed and the heavy-hearted. Other gods may claim more crowded churches, higher profiles, better ratings, fuller phone-ins, but in the contest for commitment, in the battle for belief, in the war to woo my worship, Rob's God wins. In the fight for my faith's fervour, in the struggle for my soul, in the race for my respect, Rob's God wins. Absolutely. My thought for the day is this. Will people look at you and say, I want to know the God you know? Would they say, Tracy's God wins? And if I want my God to win, I need to know him. And I need to know all about him. And I need to follow his law. And I need to do it in a way that shows exactly who Jesus is. When people look at you today, who will they see? I wonder. See you tomorrow.